This place, it's hardly worth what you think, Paul Dunning said, running a hand along my kitchen counter like he owned it. I stood across from him, palms damp. My wedding ring spun loose on my finger, the way it had since Harold passed. It's got oak beams, original, and the sunroom, my husband built it. Paul nodded vaguely, tapping something into his phone. Sunrooms don't add much value these days. Market's shifted. He was so casual, like he was doing me a favor, lowballing the place I'd lived in since 1963. My husband, Harold, spent his weekends sanding those beams. He handpicked every tile in the bathroom. I wanted to snap back, tell Paul he was wrong, but I just pressed my thumb against the smooth edge of the countertop and said, "I'll wait for the report." That report came 3 days later, $112,000, $50,000 under what the neighbors got, half of what this place could sell for in spring. I stared at the envelope on the table. Paul had circled the number in blue ink, smiley face next to it. I didn't cry. I just walked to the fridge, peeled off the old gas bill, and made space for a new item, a photo. Not just any photo, one I found by accident, scrolling through the neighborhood's Facebook group. It was my sunroom, my plants, the light slanting across the floor exactly how it does around 4:30 p.m. Paul's caption? Snagged this hidden gem. Timing is everything. My throat went dry. I clicked his profile. Realtor license, flipping photos, listings under friends' names. This man hadn't just undervalued my home, he was planning to buy it. I printed the photo, smoothed the glossy paper with both hands, and taped it to my fridge. Every time I opened the door, it stared back at me, my house, glowing under someone else's plan. That night, I called my cousin Lorna in Mesa. She used to work at the county recorder's office. "Lorna," I said, "how fast can someone file a private offer without alerting the seller?" She was quiet a beat. "You need to come see me. Tomorrow. First thing." I looked up at the photo, at Paul's caption. "Okay," I said. "I'll be there by 9. I left before sunrise. The desert air was still cool, and the sky hadn't yet turned that cruel, blinding white it does by noon. The photo of the sunroom rode in my purse beside a packet of peanut butter crackers. I hadn't eaten, but I couldn't face the day empty-handed. Lorna met me outside the county building, a paper cup of gas station coffee in one hand and her ID badge clipped crooked to her blouse. "You look like you haven't slept." I hadn't, but I smiled. "I brought something." Inside, we found a quiet corner cubicle, just like she used to work in. Lorna typed fast, her nails clicking like hail against the keys. "He's not on the paperwork," she murmured. "But look, this trust was filed 3 weeks ago. Buyers listed as Teresa Dunning." My heart dropped. "His cousin?" Lorna gave a slow, bitter nod. "And guess who notarized it? His wife. Real clean operation." She printed it out. My address typed neatly at the top. They hadn't even changed the lot description. I ran my fingers along the edge of the printout. He was in my kitchen, telling me the house wasn't worth a thing. "Because he'd already filed this," she said. "He lowballed you so you'd sell in a hurry. Probably planned to relist it himself in a month for triple." I thought back. A moment weeks ago. Paul glancing around the front yard saying, "Begonias this time of year? That's rare." He'd already decided then. Lorna slid the photo of my sunroom across the desk beside the deed record. "This helps, but if you want to blow this open, you'll need more. Dates, names, a clear paper trail." "And time?" She hesitated. "That's the thing, Betty. He moves fast. Very fast." I stared at the deed, the forged smiley face on the appraisal, and that photo, my house, glowing under his name. Lorna touched my hand. "If he files that offer and you don't counter in 48 hours, it could go through uncontested." I stood up, suddenly cold. "Then I've got less than 2 days," I said, "to burn his whole plan down." May Simmons lived 3 streets over, in the house with the lavender bushes so thick they spilled onto the sidewalk. She answered the door with a wary smile and a cardigan that still had a price tag dangling from the hem. "Betty, I remember you from church, before COVID. I'm looking into something, I said. I think you might have had the same appraiser I did. Her expression stiffened. Come in. Her living room was tidy in the way that says you don't sleep much. On the mantel, a photo of her husband in an old army uniform. She caught me looking and said, Cancer got him last year, right before they came to value the place. I nodded. Paul Dunning? She exhaled sharply through her nose. Said I had structural issues. Took 30 photos. Then this offer came in out of nowhere through his cousin. I felt rushed, panicked, and I signed. I followed her into the sunroom. It was nearly identical to mine. Same beams, same curve in the glass. May reached into a drawer and pulled out a folder. I kept these, just in case. Inside, a flyer with Paul's face on it, smiling like a game show host. Buying? Selling? Let me help you find your match. Date stamped 2 years ago. But he's an assessor now, I said. May snorted. Apparently he switches hats when it's convenient. She handed it to me. Use it if you think it'll help. I left feeling wired and shaken, like the last hour had cracked open a vault. When I got home, the mailbox was empty, but something caught my eye in the doorframe. A card, Paul's. I flipped it over. In blue ink, the same handwriting from the report. Let's make this easy, Betty. I stood frozen on my porch, the late sun slanting across the gravel like fire. My phone buzzed. Lorna. I found something, she said, and you're not going to like it. What? He's already scheduled a final inspection. Tomorrow, noon. I boiled water for tea I didn't want. Lorna said the flyer May gave me could be the linchpin. If we can prove dual representation, he's cooked. The board will bury him. But I couldn't wait for the board, not with noon tomorrow ticking like a timer, so I called Paul. Mr. Dunning, I said, I've been thinking, maybe we can talk again, in person. He was at my doorstep in under an hour, hair neatly combed, clipboard in hand, like a man coming to collect what's already his. Ms. Williams, he smiled, I knew you'd come around. I motioned toward the kitchen. Sunroom's bright this time of day. Thought we could sit there. He followed me in, eyes scanning everything. My plants, the polished wood floors, the framed wedding photo of me and Harold, sun-faded but proud. I saw a photo of this room, I said lightly. Online, thought it looked familiar. Paul paused. Oh? You called it a hidden gem, I added, watching his face. Interesting choice of words for a place you said was practically worthless. He licked his lips. Betty, this market's unpredictable. Sometimes I post inspirational photos. It's marketing. That's all. I didn't mention May, or the flyer, or the forged trust deed Lorna was tracing. I just watched him squirm. Anyway, he said, standing too fast, I have another appointment. Let's revisit this tomorrow. Or better yet, let my cousin's office give you a call. He headed toward the door, pausing with his hand on the knob. You know, he said, voice lower, you're not the only one with friends in this town. He left. I walked back to the kitchen to clean up the mugs, but something was off. The drawer under the phone station, where I kept Harold's original deed, was half open. The file folder inside, empty. Gone. I gripped the countertop to steady myself. The sunroom around me spun like it had been pulled from under my feet. Harold's signature, our mortgage trail, everything we built. It wasn't in my hands anymore, and I had less than 18 hours to get it back. I didn't sleep. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table with the overhead light buzzing, papers spread out like a poker hand. I made 2 copies of everything, every appraisal, every flyer. I tucked one set under the coffee tin lid, Harold's old hiding place, just in case. At 6:05 a.m., I called Lorna. You're up early, she said, no surprise in her voice. I didn't lose that deed. He took it. She didn't hesitate. I believe you. And Betty, we've got more. I cross-checked names. Paul signed at least 2 other appraisals that ended up in his cousin's hands. Same timeline, same pattern. My heart jumped. That's enough to file? Almost. But it's not just about proving fraud, she said. It's about stopping this sale today. He's got an inspection set for noon. If he submits the paperwork by 3, it could be over. Then I need to buy time. I hung up and got dressed. No makeup, hair up, old gray blouse. I wanted to look harmless. Teresa Dunning's office was downtown, glass front suite, fake succulents, and a receptionist who offered me cucumber water. I asked to speak with someone about selling my home off-market. 10 minutes later, she walked in, tall, smart blazer, polished nails. "I'm Teresa," she smiled. "You must be Betty." She knew my name. She didn't even ask for it. We sat. She slid over a notepad. "You said you're interested in a discreet sale." "Possibly," I said, voice light. "I was told your office might help." She nodded, too fast. "Absolutely. We specialize in easing transitions for older clients." I looked behind her desk. There it was, a folder, yellow, labeled in Sharpie, Williams B., draft agreement. I felt the heat rise in my chest. "Oh," I said, standing. "I forgot. I left my stove on, silly me." She blinked. "We can reschedule." But I was already halfway to the elevator, pausing only to snap a photo of that label with my phone. Outside, I texted Lorna. "They've already drawn up the purchase agreement." 3 dots. Then her reply, "Don't let them file it. Noon is your line in the sand." The envelope was duct-taped to my mailbox. No stamp, no address, just my name in thick Sharpie, Betty Williams. I tore it open right there on the porch. Inside, another appraisal, lower than the first, $98,000. Signed, stamped, backdated. My hand shook so hard the paper fluttered to the ground. I picked it up and read the footnote in red ink. Final revision, as discussed. Discussed with who? Not me. I called Lorna. "They're pushing the sale through early," I told her. "He dropped another report, worse than before." She didn't miss a beat. "Listen to me. The county clerk's office closes at 3. If you show up before then with a formal dispute and any evidence of fraud, it forces a freeze. They can't record a title transfer until it's reviewed." I checked the wall clock. 12:55 p.m., 2 hours. "I've got the flyer, the folder photo, and your research." "Then Betty," she said, "you've got to get there first." I hung up, dumped everything into Harold's cracked leather briefcase, and grabbed my keys. Outside, I stopped cold. My tires, all 4, slashed. No mistaking it, rubber shredded, white cords showing. This wasn't persuasion anymore. It was a message. "Stay put, old woman." I stood frozen on the gravel until the screen door creaked behind me. Walt, my neighbor, 82, retired fire chief. He still wore his old department cap like it was part of his skull. He looked at the tires, then at me. "Need a car?" I nodded, speechless. He didn't ask another thing, just held out his keys. "Take mine," he said. "Gas tank's full, and Betty, burn them to the ground." I took those keys with both hands, heart thudding. Minutes later, I was flying down Glendale Avenue in Walt's Chevy, Harold's briefcase seat-belted beside me like a co-pilot. In that bag, the flyer, the folder photo, the forged appraisal, and 40 years of love etched into our deed. The car clock clicked over to 1:07. I had 1 hour and 53 minutes to stop the theft of my life. The county clerk's building smelled like dry paper and lemon cleaner. I walked in with Harold's briefcase pressed tight to my side, and my jaw clenched so hard it ached. The young woman at the counter looked up, bored. "Name?" "Betty Williams. I'm here to contest a pending title transfer." She blinked. "Hold on." She clicked her mouse, frowned at the screen, then said, too casually, "Looks like documents were already submitted, just waiting on stamp approval." "No," I said. "They were submitted fraudulently." She sighed. "You'll need to file a formal dispute. Supervisor has to see it." "Then get your supervisor." Her eyes finally sharpened. She made the call. I opened the briefcase on the counter and laid everything out. Paul's original appraisal, May's flyer, Lorna's notarization list, the photo I'd taken of Teresa's desk, The postmarked dates, the duplicate names, the forged urgency. By the time the supervisor arrived, a man in a rumpled dress shirt and sad eyes, I had all of it spread like evidence in a trial. He stood silently as I walked him through each page. Then he saw the photo, the folder labeled Williams B. in Teresa's handwriting. His lips tightened. "This was taken yesterday?" he asked. "Yes." He stepped behind the desk, tapped at the keyboard, and muttered, "Yeah. They used the accelerated filing portal, but we haven't processed it yet." He looked up. "I'm flagging it, putting a hold on the title. Nothing moves until we review all this." My knees nearly gave. "Thank you." But he didn't smile. "Ma'am," he said, "this isn't over. If they're this deep, they'll fight dirty now." I nodded, clutching Harold's briefcase like it was his hand. Outside, the air smelled hot and metallic. My phone buzzed. "Lorna." "You did it. That hold will stop them. For now." I exhaled, turned toward Walt's car. Then I saw him. Paul. Leaning against a black SUV across the street, arms folded, wearing that same smug khaki and polo uniform. He didn't wave, didn't move, just smiled, and raised his phone, aimed it at me. Click. I didn't go home. Not after Paul snapped that photo like he was tagging prey. Not after Lorna's text came. In 5 words that raised every hair on my neck. "Don't go inside yet." I circled my block twice in Walt's Chevy. That's when I saw it. A white panel van, no plates, no logos, just sitting 2 houses down from mine, engine off, windshield dark. It hadn't been there this morning. I pulled into the gas station 2 blocks over and called Walt. "Was there a van outside earlier?" "Nope," he said, "and I've been on the porch most of the day." "Thanks," I said. "Don't go near it." I drove to the public library instead. Cool, quiet, safe. Lorna met me by the back entrance, 2 coffees in hand, eyes sharp. "You were right," she said, sliding into the booth. "Teresa's trust is linked to 4 other buyers, all cash deals, all undervalued. And guess what? Every single one has Paul's notary stamp on the appraisal." My stomach tightened. "So, it's a ring. A polished one, no paper trail, unless you're digging." She slid a folder across the table. "And if they can't steal your house, they'll try to prove you're unfit to fight." I flinched. "They'll say you're confused, that you forgot signing something, that you're elderly, overwhelmed, whatever works." I stared at the folder. "Inside," she said, "is an affidavit of mental capacity, doctor-reviewed, legal, get it notarized, today." I nodded slowly. Lorna reached across the table and gripped my hand. "Betty, listen to me. Stay out of that house tonight." I didn't argue, because deep down I already knew whoever slashed my tires might still have a key. The motel reeked of bleach and old carpet. I kept the lights on all night, sat in the corner chair with Harold's briefcase on my lap and the affidavit on the nightstand. The lock rattled every time a car passed. I didn't sleep. I listened. At 7:02 a.m., I walked into the notary's office like a ghost. The clerk, a girl no older than my granddaughter, barely glanced at me. I slid the affidavit across the counter with both hands. "Sign here," she said. Her stamp thudded like a heartbeat. Cold. Final. I exhaled. "That's it," she said. "No," I muttered. "That's the beginning." I walked 2 blocks to the diner for eggs and a strong coffee I barely tasted. The Formica booth was sticky, the window fogged. Then, May. She spotted me, slid into the seat across without a word. "I couldn't sleep either," she said. "Been thinking." She pulled a small card from her purse. "Paul's old business card," she said. "I found it in a box, but that's not the point." She leaned in. "I remember a woman in his office, crying. This was weeks before I sold. I overheard her. She said he threatened to call adult services." My chest went tight. He told her she was confused, that maybe she'd already signed, and if she kept causing trouble. Her voice trailed off. I stared at the affidavit in my bag. I wasn't paranoid. I was next. May put her hand over mine. We're not the only ones, Betty, but we can be the last. My phone buzzed on the table. Lorna. Text 1. You need to see this. Text 2. Teresa filed a claim this morning, says you agreed to vacate. Text 3. I'm pulling the footage now. The video came through at 10:11 a.m. I watched it on my phone in the library parking lot, sunlight slicing across the screen. There I was, walking into Teresa's office, sitting in the lobby, standing up, leaving. 3 minutes, 37 seconds. I never entered the main conference room, never signed a thing, never said a word beyond hello. But Teresa's claim, filed under penalty of perjury, said I was there for over an hour, that I gave verbal consent to vacate, that I expressed gratitude for their help. Lorna called, her voice a growl. This is felony territory now, Betty. We're talking forged records, false filings, real estate fraud at scale. If we can tie this to Paul, we bury them. Before I could reply, May sent another message. Come to the library. Someone wants to talk. I found them in the study room, May and a woman named Ruth, 69, silent, folded into herself like a napkin that's been wrung out too many times. She didn't speak right away, just opened a manila folder and slid out a flash drive. I recorded him, she whispered, months ago. He thought I was just another soft widow. Lorna had told me to expect snakes, but this was venom. Ruth's recordings included Paul's voice, clear as a bell. You hand them a folder, smile nice, and let the paperwork walk itself through the system, he said in one. In another, he laughed. That sweet old widow didn't even know what she signed. Gave me the damn deed with a thank you. I felt bile rise in my throat. Ruth held out the flash drive. Her hand was shaking. It's your move now. I stepped outside, the drive clutched in my fist. That's when I heard it, gravel crunching. I turned, the white van, not parked this time, crawling down the row, slow, deliberate, and aiming straight for me. The van didn't speed. It crept, like it had nowhere to be but right in front of me. I stepped backward toward the library steps, hand in my purse, fingers wrapped around the flash drive like a lifeline. 10 feet, 5. Then just as it reached the curb, it turned, left signal blinked once, and it rolled away. No plate, no logo, no mistake. It wasn't a warning. It was surveillance. We see you. I sat on the library bench, heart hammering, called Lorna. Ruth's audio is gold, she said. I sent it to a contact at the Attorney General's office. This is bigger than just your deed now. My throat was dry. They're watching me. She didn't argue. Then we take this public now. May arranged the meeting. A friend's daughter, Carmen, worked at a local news station. We met her that afternoon in the back of a bakery. I handed over everything. My affidavit, the duplicate appraisals, Paul's flyer, Ruth's recordings. Carmen, barely 30, had the eyes of someone older, sharper. You're not the first, she said quietly, but you might be the first to push back. She promised to run the story on one condition. We make it to Thursday. That night I stayed at May's. We double-bolted the doors, kept phones charged, watched old movies like nervous children. At 2:04 a.m., the doorbell rang. Once, just once. No knock, no footsteps. May clutched my arm. I opened the door slowly. No one. Just a manila envelope on the mat. No return address. Inside, a single page. Typed. One line. You made this messy, Betty. Now we have to clean it up. The page trembled in my hands, not because of the words, short, typed, plain, because of the precision. They knew where I was, what I was doing, and now they wanted me scared enough to run. Lorna filed the letter with the AG's office before I'd even finished my coffee. "They've crossed the line from fraud into full-on intimidation," she said. "I've got a case number. You're not alone now." But Carmen didn't want quiet. She wanted daylight. She called at 10 sharp. "We're going on air," she said. "Noon broadcast. You up for it?" My mouth went dry, but I said yes. I wore Harold's wedding band on a chain around my neck, slipped it under my collar, armor. The studio lights were blinding. Carmen mic'd me up, gentle but firm. "We'll go soft at first," she said. "You take it where you want." The red light blinked on. Carmen introduced me. Retired schoolteacher, Glendale resident, victim of suspected title fraud. Then she asked, "Why do you think they chose you?" I looked dead into the lens. "Because I was alone," I said. "They thought I wouldn't fight." The silence in the studio hummed. When the segment ended, Carmen whispered, "You just lit a match." She wasn't wrong. By the time I got back to Mays, my inbox was full. Messages from people I didn't know, all with eerily similar stories. Then one stopped me cold. A woman from Flagstaff. She'd seen Paul just weeks ago. Same face, same khakis. Only this time, the property sign bore a different name. She sent a photo. There he was, smiling in front of a duplex. And behind him, the same white van. Denise's voice was tight, measured. "He called himself Cal Dunning," she said. "Wore a logo polo, same smile. He said my dad's house needed urgent off-market handling." I closed my eyes. "Did he bring up a trust?" "Yes. Said his cousin handled it, Teresa. But I looked her up, no license. That's when I pulled out." "Anything happen after?" She hesitated. "My dad's original deed copy disappeared. Just gone." I gripped the phone harder. Same playbook, same van, same rot. After the call, I found Lorna's voicemail. Her voice was breathless. "Betty, we've got traction. The AG's office is dispatching someone, an investigator. Could be as soon as tomorrow, but we need to keep gathering." I was already ahead of her. Carmen's producer found something else. Paul's realtor license had been inactive for 8 months, but he'd been appraising, selling, even notarizing deals. "That's a felony," she said flatly. We brought it to May's cousin, Charlotte, who worked in state compliance. She flipped through the folder, Ruth's audio, the photo of Paul in Flagstaff. Her eyes narrowed. "He's cooked," she said. "But you need a kill shot, something that ties all of this back to his real name, real license, and real intention." That night, I collapsed on May's pull-out couch. I didn't even undress. At 3:04 a.m., my phone buzzed. Block number. One message. No words, just a photo. My house, porch light on, and in the sunroom window, barely visible but clear, a figure, watching. I didn't scream. I just stared at the photo. My house, my sunroom, and the faint outline of someone standing inside, on the wrong side of the glass. I forwarded it to Lorna, then the AG's contact, then called Walt. He answered on the second ring. "Stay where you are," he said. "I'll go check the locks. I've got my old service flashlight. And a bat." May hovered in the kitchen, already pouring coffee. "You're not going anywhere today," she said. "Not until someone in a badge shows up." By mid-morning, Carmen's team had traced the photo. "Metadata says it was taken at 2:57 a.m., she said. "And the phone number? Burner. But guess what?" I waited. It sent identical photos to another woman. Last year, she moved to Oregon after, quietly. Same pattern, same van, same ghost in the window. Lorna called next. "AG's investigator is flying in. Lands tonight. Name's Pierce. He's sharp. But we need to prep." I needed air. I went to May's garage, dug through Harold's old file box. Not expecting anything, just something to do with my hands. Then I found it. A yellowed receipt. Notarized witness verification. March 1998. Signed by Paul Dunning. Back then, he was listed as transaction witness. No appraisal license yet. No cousin's trust. Just a name. But the signature, it was the same. Same curve. Same underline flourish. He'd been circling this game for decades. I snapped a photo, Sent it to Lorna. Her reply came fast. That's the kill shot, Betty. Be ready to deliver it in person. Pierce looked like the kind of man who never raised his voice unless something was on fire. Pressed shirt, quiet stance, eyes that scanned a room before settling on your face. We met in the library's side conference room at dusk. The windows glowed amber. I handed him the folder, Ruth's recordings, the fake appraisals, the affidavit, the 1998 receipt with Paul's signature. He didn't say much, just read, listened, nodded once, then finally, he used his own notary log. I blinked. What does that... The diner was nearly empty. Just me, a waitress humming near the coffee pot, and a man in a gray jacket with a government badge clipped to his collar. Pierce. He stood when I walked in. Tall, steady, mid-40s with a face like stone. He shook my hand and slid into the booth without small talk. Let's begin, he said. I laid it all out. Ruth's audio, the photo of Paul at the Flagstaff duplex, May's flyer, the fake appraisal, the 1998 receipt, the letter from the porch, even the affidavit. He nodded through it all, taking notes in tight, slanted cursive. Then he opened his own folder. This is Paul Dunning, he said, or rather, Calvin Dunning. Paul is an alias he's used off and on since 2004. My breath caught. His notary license expired 6 years ago, never renewed. Every stamp he's used since is a forgery. That makes every document he's touched not just void, but criminal. I pressed my hand to my chest. So we have him? We have enough to open charges, he said. But I want a controlled delivery. Let him make one more move, one we can trace, catch in real time. I nodded. I'm in. Then he frowned. There's something else. He pulled out a single sheet. Teresa filed a counterclaim this morning, says you entered her office without permission, threatened her, caused damage. I froze. She's filed a police report. A warrant is being drafted, for you. The room tilted sideways. But I know, he said calmly. I'm going to stall it, but it means they know we're close. They're playing their final card. He handed me a business card. You're staying with someone safe tonight? Yes. Go there. Do not go home, not even to pick up clothes. He leaned in. Tonight decides everything, Betty. The cabin smelled like pine and dust. May and I didn't speak much on the drive, just the sound of tires, wind, and old radio static. Walt's son had cleared out for the week. No internet, no neighbors, just trees and time. I sat at the kitchen table with Harold's briefcase, spreading the pieces again, like old bones. At 6:15, Lorna's car crunched up the gravel drive. She stepped out, wind-blown, with a second figure behind her. Pierce. He looked tired but focused. Teresa pulled the counterclaim, he said as soon as we were inside. Her lawyer probably told her it wouldn't hold. I exhaled. But we're not done, he said. Carmen's segment re-aired. A viewer called in. He pulled out a small folder. She was Calvin's assistant back in 2017. She kept copies, originals. Says she saw forged appraisals, false signatures. Will she talk? She'll meet, he said. Privately, but only with you. Me? She remembers your name from the segment. Says you sounded like someone she could trust. I looked down at my hands. They always think we're harmless, I said. Pierce smiled faintly. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. Phoenix. I'll set it up. He opened one more folder. A photo. Teresa, standing on courthouse steps. Beside her, just out of frame, a man in profile. The shoes were unmistakable. Tan, worn, familiar. But the photo caught his name tag just barely. Calvin Dunning. Not Paul. Not anymore. Tomorrow I meet the woman who knows everything, and I'm bringing the match. Jaina was younger than I expected. Late 20s, jittery hands, hair pulled back too tight. We met in a shuttered strip mall cafe, the kind with closed blinds and one flickering light overhead. Pierce and I sat across from her at a sticky vinyl booth. She didn't say much at first, but when I told her they tried to take my house, her shoulders dropped. She unzipped a weathered messenger bag. "I copied everything when I left," she whispered. "Didn't trust him. Or her." She slid a flash drive across the table. "Every client folder I handled," she said. "Appraisals, internal letters, 2 deeds. One's that woman Ruth you mentioned. The other's active. They're circling it now." My stomach turned. She handed over one more thing, a recorder. On it, Calvin's voice again. "She's good but greedy," he says. "Terese'll sweet-talk the dentures off a nun." Jaina laughed once, bitter and low. "He told me I was too soft, that I'd never make money if I worried about old people." Pierce took the flash drive with reverence. "Would you speak to the AG's office?" "Off record, yes," she said. "But not on camera. I've got a kid." "Fair." We left the cafe, light slicing through the dust in narrow beams. Pierce's pace was electric. "This is it," he said, nearly smiling. "We've got everything. Forgery, false identity, intent to defraud, collusion." I texted Lorna. "Game on." We were halfway out of the lot when Pierce's phone rang. He checked the screen. Frowned. "Carmen," he said. "Hang on." He answered. I watched his face fall. "Say that again?" He hung up slowly. "That was Carmen." His voice was low. "Someone broke into the station last night." He looked down at the flash drive in his hand. "The original copy's gone." Carmen's voice shook. "Betty, they drilled open the safe." I held the phone tight. They didn't touch the camera gear, not the laptops, just 2 things, Jaina's flash drive and your flyer. May's copy. It wasn't random. It was surgical. Pierce moved fast. He uploaded Jaina's backup to 2 government servers and handed a copy to the AG's office himself. "The case moves forward," he said. "But the media coverage? Dead in the water. For now." Carmen cursed under her breath, but promised to keep digging. She's not done. May, meanwhile, slammed her coffee mug on the counter. "Then we go louder," she said. She pulled out her church directory, dog-eared, paper-clipped. "If they want war, I'll give them a parade." She started calling. Widows, retirees, women who'd sold too fast or too cheap. By dusk, we had 12 women saying yes. Walt offered his backyard, hung up string lights, hauled out folding chairs like it was a summer barbecue. We sat in a loose circle, paper plates balanced on knees. One by one, the stories came. He told me my pipes were a lawsuit waiting to happen. She said I'd signed already, but I hadn't. They said it'd be off-market, private, just for my safety. Each voice different, each ending the same, a changed deed, a number that didn't add up, a name not quite right. Lorna whispered beside me, "We just built a witness wall." Then her phone buzzed. She glanced down, froze. "Betty." I turned. She held up the screen. "Calvin just filed a civil suit." Pause. "Against you." Lorna read the lawsuit out loud, her voice like iron wrapped in silk. Defamation, harassment, intentional emotional distress. Pierce folded his arms. "Classic counterstrike, delay tactic, paints you as irrational before the real charges land." I sat in May's kitchen, Harold's wedding ring warm against my chest. I didn't feel irrational. I felt furious. "He's accusing me of elder abuse?" I said. "He's the one stealing homes from women who bury their husbands and forget where they last left their tax forms." Lorna didn't smile. "It's projection," she said, "and poison. But we've got an antidote." Pierce brought a woman with him, Allison, mid-50s, legal firecracker in Sensible Flats. "This suit won't hold," she said, "but it's meant to distract, to freeze your confidence. Don't let it." Carmen texted next. One word. Found. She'd been digging through old land registry files, scanned PDFs, ink-streaked copies. "There's a 2001 land transfer," she said. "He handled it under a third alias, Seller was a widow in Flagstaff. And? I asked. She disappeared months later. Case was closed after a payout. Sealed file. But it was his first big move. Jaina confirmed it. My hands shook. Lorna leaned closer. We don't wait anymore. That afternoon, we filed an emergency motion, freeze all assets tied to Teresa's trust. Every dime, every deed. It was a risk, but so was silence. At 9:12 p.m., Walt called. I saw the van again, he said. Same one. I followed it this time. I gripped the phone. Where? Back lot, Dyer and Smith Legal. My blood iced. And Betty. Teresa got out of the passenger seat. Dyer and Smith wasn't just any firm. Carmen found the pattern buried in closings, 5 properties, all tied to the same trust. Same escrow officer. Same fast-moving, low-paperwork closings. It's their cleanup crew, she said, where the paper gets polished before it hits the recorder's office. Pierce didn't waste time. He and Lorna prepped a subpoena. The trust's financial trail had just gotten a backbone and a name. Meanwhile, May's witness wall kept growing. A woman named Glenda called from Prescott. I'm a retired notary, she said. Saw your story. I remember him. Calvin. We were at a 1999 training together. She had the program. His name was printed in black ink. His signature, scrawled next to hers. Proof he existed under that name. Legally, before the aliases began. Pierce's tone changed after that. We can charge them, he said. But we need you, Betty. We need your full statement. Recorded, official. I didn't hesitate. That evening, under a ceiling fan and dome light in the AG's field office, I told everything. The letter, the appraisal, the photo, the porch, Harold's file box, Jaina's voice memos. I was halfway through when someone knocked. Pierce stepped out. A muffled voice. Then he came back with his phone held out. Carmen had just sent a video. Security footage, dated last night. Back door of Dyer and Smith. Grainy but clear. A man hauling something from the van's trunk. A hard-shell case, labeled surveillance. He handed it to a second man, suited. Calm. Then both stepped inside. No hesitation, no fear. They weren't hiding anymore. They were collecting. Carmen didn't exaggerate. The surveillance case, they'd seen it opened. Hard drives, yellow legal pads, a handheld camcorder with dates labeled in tape. They document everything, Pierce muttered. Control freaks always do. It was all being stored, maybe for leverage, maybe insurance, maybe worse. But the freeze we filed held. Teresa's trust accounts were locked, pending fraud review. She filed for an emergency hearing. It was denied. The walls were closing in. That night Ruth called. They restored my deed, she sobbed. It's back in my name, Betty, the real one. I cried with her, but by morning, Carmen sent another alert. Dyer and Smith had filed a new LLC. The paperwork dated just yesterday. The name? Sunframe Services. They're pivoting, Lorna said grimly, pulling assets, moving titles, starting fresh. They're going dark, I said. Carmen's voice over the phone was tight. Betty, someone's scrubbing records, digitally, bit by bit. One woman's file vanished mid-search. I gripped the table. If we don't charge them in 48 hours, she said, they'll be ghosts. I called Pierce. His voice was steady. Then we move. Pause. You come in, bring your documents, sign in person. When? Noon, Capitol. Building. Me? You're the victim, he said. You're also the witness. Then softer, almost kind. You're the one who didn't fold. The Capitol marble was colder than I expected. Security checked my ID twice, glanced at my affidavit. Let me through. Pierce met me in the rotunda, folder tucked under his arm. It read, Dunning, affidavit final. You ready? He asked. I nodded, even though my stomach was all knots and old ghosts. We walked down a corridor lined with portraits. Governors, founders, ghosts in oil paint. In a small room, a notary waited. Silver hair, quiet eyes. She handed me a pen. Sign, initial, sign again. My name, my statement. Every page a reckoning. Pierce watched but said nothing. When I finished, I exhaled so hard it made the notary smile. Then a clerk burst in, breathless. "The judge is ready." "Already?" I asked. Pierce stood. "You're coming." We entered a courtroom small but heavy with power. A woman in robes, stern, late 60s, all precision, sat at the bench. Pierce laid out the motion. Warrants for Calvin Dunning, Teresa Vallis, fraud, forgery, criminal conspiracy. The judge flipped through the affidavit. The silence stretched. Then she spoke. "You have probable cause. Warrant granted." I didn't cheer, just let my breath out slow. But Pierce didn't smile. Outside, he pulled me aside. "They'll move fast now. Expect vanish or retaliation." As we reached the Capitol steps, his phone pinged. He checked it. Froze. "Betty? What?" "Their house is empty." He turned the screen. "Van's gone. Phone's powered off." He looked up at me. "They're already running." The van was found at a storage lot off I-17. Empty, cleaned, tires still warm. Pierce called it in. Federal authorities activated the alert. Calvin and Teresa were now fugitives. Their last known move? Northbound in a rented Kia, paid in cash. But they'd made a mistake. Carmen flagged something from earlier that morning. 5:42 a.m. Teresa, entering a climate-controlled storage unit. Alone. We rushed there, sun barely over the horizon. Unit 108. Pierce's badge got us past the lock. Inside, boxes. Dozens of them. Bankers' boxes, neat and labeled. Client folders. Signed letters. Fake appraisals, with photos and margins. And one small black camcorder. A piece of tape across it. Intake. Ruth. Pierce crouched down, hands on his knees. "It's the archive," he muttered. "They kept everything. No shredders, no fire, just arrogance." By noon, we had enough to press charges across 3 states. Lorna said flatly, "We go public again. Today. Live." The courthouse steps were crowded with press. I stood between Carmen and Pierce. My hands didn't shake. I read one line from my affidavit. They told me I was confused. I wasn't. The bulbs flashed like fireflies. That night, May called me. Her voice was low. "Betty, turn on Channel 7. I did. The anchor's expression was tight, urgent. "This just in, Calvin Dunning was spotted at the Arizona airport." I didn't blink. They weren't ghosts yet. Not yet. The airport cameras told the truth. Calvin moved fast, alone, baseball cap pulled low. The ticket was under James Dunn, bound for Seattle. He passed through TSA with a fake ID. By the time we confirmed it, he was in the air. Authorities lit up every system they had, a full alert. But Teresa? She hadn't boarded. She'd stayed behind. And 3 hours later, Carmen got a tip. Downtown, courthouse garage, she got dropped off in a lift. I was in May's living room when the call came. We moved fast. Inside the county records building, she was already at the desk, smooth, calm, paper in hand. Lorna didn't wait. She walked up like they were old friends. "You're not getting ahead of this," she said, voice low. Teresa blinked, turned, then bolted. But Pierce was already there, badge out, stance wide. He cuffed her by the elevator. Inside her tote bag, a burner phone, a sealed envelope labeled The Vallis Foundation. 3 notarized forms, all forged. By 4:15 p.m., she was in holding. The judge refused bail, deemed her a flight risk, which she was. That night, May and I sat in the kitchen. Chamomile steeped too long. Neither of us drank. "One down," I said softly. May nodded. Then my phone buzzed. Lorna. 2 words. He landed. Pierce didn't rest. He tracked Calvin from the Seattle airport to a rental kiosk near the exit. An SUV, northbound. "He's headed for the Canadian border," Pierce said. By noon, the Department of Justice stepped in. RCMP were alerted. But we weren't just chasing anymore. We were building. Jaina agreed to go public. Her face, her voice, her documents all aired on evening broadcasts, local, then national. By morning, the floodgates opened. 11 states, dozens of women, similar names, similar appraisals, same van. But something else happened too. They started calling each other. May turned her lawn into a meeting place. Sunday evening, candles flickered against the fall chill. We each read from our affidavits, one line apiece. When I said no, they made it sound like a mistake. They erased my name before I could even grieve. They told me I'd signed. I hadn't. When my turn came, I read the same line from the courthouse steps. They told me I was confused. I wasn't. A teenager stepped forward, candle in one hand, phone in the other. "It's Carmen," she said. I stepped away from the circle. Carmen's voice was tense. "He just crossed into British Columbia." My stomach dropped. "But that's not it," she added. Pause. "He's hiding inside a property, rural, under a trust. Betty, you'll never guess the name." I braced. She said it, and my knees nearly gave. Harold J. Avery, my husband's name. He'd buried Calvin in paper 20 years ago. Now Calvin was trying to bury him. The property was remote, tucked behind cedar trees and a crumbling gate. But the name, Harold J. Avery Trust, burned brighter than any map. Pierce worked with RCMP. By dawn, Canadian officers moved in. The cottage was empty, at first. Then one officer noticed the disturbed dirt behind the shed, a root cellar. They opened it. Calvin blinked up at them, dusty, dazed, trying a smile. "I'm a victim," he said, voice hoarse. No one flinched. Back in Arizona, I sat across from the agent assigned to my case. She pushed a manila envelope across the desk. "You'll want to see this." Inside were printed screenshots from a blog, Calvin's, a private one, photos of houses, quotes, anecdotes, his little victories. One post was titled, "The Art of the Appraisal." Halfway down the page, I saw it. My house. A full-color photo, wide angle, porch just cleaned. The caption read, "You wouldn't believe how easy it is to knock 30% off if they're grieving or confused." My hand shook, but not from fear. It was clarity. "Print 10 copies," I told her, voice low. "We're going to court." The courtroom was packed. Calvin sat cuffed between two federal officers, face slack. Teresa wore gray and didn't meet my eyes. I sat behind the AG's table, affidavit in my lap, Harold's ring warm against my skin. Pierce was called first, then Jaina, then Ruth. Each voice laid a brick. By the time my name was called, the path was solid. I walked to the stand without trembling. I spoke clearly. Of the letter, the photo, the burner phones, the photo tagged with my husband's name. I didn't cry until the last part. "They didn't just forge deeds," I said. "They drained our names out of our homes, like we didn't matter, like we'd never lived there." Silence. The judge leaned forward, voice firm. "I've heard enough." Teresa was remanded. Calvin's extradition was ordered. Outside, cameras flashed like fireworks, but I didn't stop. I walked to May's truck. She was waiting, engine humming. She held something out, a set of keys. "Your house, Betty," she said. Walt changed the locks. I took them, felt the weight, the shape, the cold metal, closed my hand tight. "Let's go home," I whispered.